And joining me in the studio right now is Tim Frey. He is really a daytime job as a financial planner, but you're also involved in a USDA organic extraction facility in Hillsboro, North Dakota, and a manufacturing facility in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where you manufacture three of your own brands and distribute third party products to about 200 stores. And the product that we're talking about today is CBD. And the reason I've really wanted to bring this up is because I am a product. I grew up as a teenager in the 70s, and I know there's other people that listen to our programming here that grew up as teenagers in the 60s and during the hippies days, and pot and all sorts of other drugs was running freely, as it is more now as well. But I've become, in the mid 60s now and starting to find aches and pains that regularly um, follow me around the day. And I had several surgeries, and I was looking for something that would help ease pain in the short term and long term, because I didn't want to take the opioids that the doctors prescribed. It was
Right.
just something that was just hard to get back into. I was afraid of getting addicted again, as I was in the 70s. So somebody kept telling me about CBD. And I thought, okay, this is, it's derived from hemp. And I thought, well, that's just the cousin of the marijuana plant. It's not really part of that. But yet, when I did my research, I found THC product in that CBD, and I thought, oh, geez, is this going to be something? So I think there might be other people who have these chronic pains or don't want to take the opioid painkillers that doctors prescribe. And is CBD a good product? And I'll say, out of personal experience, yes, it really has worked well for me, and it doesn't make me high like
No.
you would expect a marijuana
Correct.
with THC in it. So basically, Tim, tell us a little bit of history of CBD, what it is, what it means, and what that product is.
Okay. So, also just to kind of add to my resume or whatever, I am
Yeah.
also the CEO of all seven Ignite dispensary and cigar stores.
Okay.
We have locations here right in Hayward, Spooner, Superior, New Richmond, Manitowoc, Milwaukee, and Bismarck, North Dakota, which don't
Okay.
ask, that's a long story.
Yeah.
We pride ourselves on quality and education. That's what really matters. There's not a lot of regulation out there for this industry. I'm not huge on regulation, but we definitely need some regulation in this industry, because any Joe Schmo could put it in a bottle and just try to sell it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we make sure that we do things the right way. We lab test everything, from seed to store, etc.
Yeah.
You were really speaking on like addiction, and I'll just talk about that real quick with just a quick story.
Okay.
Two things. One, like I have like a nun that comes into my store and she purchases, certain cannabinoid products for her neuropathy in her feet.
Okay.
But the biggest one that I like to talk about is I've got a friend that was a veteran, and after he came back from the Iraq War, he lost his leg. Over there, thank you for your service, obviously, sir. And he, the doctors were just pumping him full of all these pharmaceutical opioids. And, then he was drinking, and basically he called me and just said, Tim, my wife is about to divorce me. I need to try something different here. What can we do?
Sure.
So what we did is we got him on a CBD regimen, and also with a little bit of Delta 8 gummies. So he takes CBD every day for his inflammation, and he takes like a little bite of a Delta 8 gummy in the morning for his phantom pain, and then a full one at night for his pain and sleep. And he has been able to get off all of his opioid pain medication by doing that.
Yeah.
Using a natural product.
Yeah, and that's been my experience. Again, I do have neuropathy in my feet, and I had those pins and needles sort of feelings in my feet all the time. And the doctor was saying there's not much we can do. Give you some gabapentin for some of that. And then I had a couple of surgeries, and knee replacement surgery, a surgery on my foot for fusion. And again, I didn't want to get addicted again to opioid medications, and I was looking for that natural thing. Now,
so the best way to describe CBD, because people always ask me this question, the best way to describe CBD is it's a natural plant-based anti-inflammatory, and hopefully I can say dietary supplement here very soon.
yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So people that want the medicinal properties of the cannabis plant without that psychoactive effect, CBD is right where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay. You asked me to describe the difference. So cannabis is the plant. You look at the normal 5-leaf plant, right? That is
Sure.
a cannabis plant. So when I reference cannabis, it can be marijuana or it can be hemp.
Okay.
So then there's the two different varieties. Of those varieties, you've got the marijuana. Marijuana is high in what's called delta-9 THC. Delta-9 THC is a psychoactive chemical that is on the DEA's banned substance list that gets you high. Okay. That you're talking about the 60s hippie stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, getting high. So it's marijuana is high in THC, but it is low in CBD. Okay. On the other hand, hemp is high in CBD, low in THC. So again, people that want the medicinal properties of that cannabis plant without that psychoactive effect,
Sure.
CBD is where it's at.
Okay.
Okay. Now, everybody's body is different and metabolizes differently and stuff. There's two different types of CBD out there. There's what's called a full spectrum. Okay. So when we take hemp out of the field, we extract the oil out of it and suck that oil out of it. And then we distill it down into like a distillate version. Okay. That's going to be your full spectrum oil. There can be up to 113 different cannabinoids in that cannabis plant. Some of the big ones, though, are obviously CBD, CBG, CBN, CBC. Then there's Delta-8. I could go on for a long time here.
Right.
And then so that one does have a little bit of minuscule amount of THC, which is the legal limit after the 2018 Farm Bill is 0.3. Okay. So again, we test everything from as soon as we take it out of the field and extract it. And then we actually batch test of all of our products as well to make sure that there's no heavy metals, no pesticides, because you can just do a regular lab test for potency, but we even go a step further and really make sure there's no heavy metals, pesticides, or anything in that.
Sure.
Okay. Then there's so people will ask me, will I test positive on a drug test for this?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That minuscule amount of delta-9, yes, you will test positive. Sometimes, though, it will come up as what's called a false positive, and most people just stop taking it, drink a lot of water for a week or two, and then you can pass the test again.
Sure.
Because it's such a minuscule amount.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we can actually take it, but that full spectrum oil is really good for a lot of people with discomfort in their body.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I use is that.
Correct, the full spectrum. And with that little bit of minuscule THC, that will help some people sleep as well. Okay. But then we can take it a step further and actually isolate out the CBD only. So in a full spectrum distillate, there's approximately 85% CBD, and then the rest is all those other terpenes that I discussed.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We can take it a step further and actually isolate out the CBD only and make it to a 99.8% pure product, which removes all the THC.
Sure.
So somebody like my mother, she actually has some shaking and inflammation in her body and stuff like that. I put her on a CBD regimen, and we're talking years ago when this kind of first started out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I just don't like how this makes me feel, Tim. Like, I woke up a little groggy, which that just means you should probably take it a little sooner. But her body, she's very sensitive to medications or anything else.
Yep.
So then I put her on an isolate version, and that all went away. So it's been helping with her inflammation and things like that. So anybody that is worried about any THC, you want to look for what's called an isolate-based product only.
And you're actually less likely to test positive.
You will not test positive for that, unless it's a cannabinoid test, which most drug companies aren't using. Most drug tests are delta tests.
Okay.
But so basically anybody that is drug tested or we don't sell to anybody under 18. But if a parent wants to come in and use it for a child for restfulness or things like that. Okay. It's actually worked extremely well, to keep kids off of like Ritalin and helping them sleep and things like that.
Sure.
So,
wow. And then, the other, one, we know this product is legal. In fact, I sent you an article about the FDA forget which acronym it was, but they were talking about, making this legal throughout the country and starting to regulate it. And I just thought, well, isn't it legal already in all the states?
So, I deal with a lot of different regulation agencies. I'm not going to lie. So my wife is really big on this. She's a self-taught herbologist that does all of our education and, making sure that we're saying the right things, not making medical claims package, writing copy,
Sure.
etc. So what you're talking about, in 2018, there was the 2018 Farm Bill, which legalized hemp, okay, up to the 0.3 Delta 9 THC. So, the other part about CBD is that comes from female plants with the buds.
Sure.
Think about what you're smoking. Now, the hemp bill also authorized for commercial textiles stuff.
Yeah.
So, those are going to be your male fibrous stocks and stuff like that. So the 2018 Farm Bill enacted both of those.
Okay.
Now, throughout the years, the FDA doesn't want to set rules on this. So there's a lot of gray area. There's talks about, with interstate commerce,
Sure.
like when CBD first got legalized, we were a little scared about it because if THC crosses the state line, that's a federal, that's
Sure.
a felony.
Yeah.
So we actually started with isolate-based products only just to make sure that we, we're legal and things like that. Now, the 2023, gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't have that printed out. Whatever you sent me, that bill. So basically, that's a bipartisan bill from Congress, which is going to basically force the FDA to start making rules and regulations on this.
Okay.
Again, there's no, we test all the way through potency, all the way through heavy metals and stuff. That's not the case for a lot of companies out there. There's a lot of foreign companies. I hate to bash gas stations, but they bring in some pretty junk stuff that actually the CBD comes from China. China uses hemp as a cover crop. So what I mean is they plant it in between the rows to control the weeds.
Okay.
Well, hemp, which can save the world because it can absorb 4 times the carbon dioxide of a tree and grows in a fraction of time. So if you think about that for a second, it's over there in China and it absorbs 4 times the carbon dioxide with all that pollution over there. It's sucking in all that pollution. It's concentrated down to a pure form, and then you put it in your body. That's not a good thing.
No.
You're probably putting pollutants and chemicals and cancer into your body rather than helping to alleviate that.
Wow.
Yeah. So the biggest thing about this is making sure you know where your CBD is coming from. Right. My company, all of our hemp is grown in Wisconsin, North Dakota, or Minnesota. Again, it's extracted. Then we have an ISO 6001 pharmaceutical grade USDA organic laboratories in Minneapolis with a biochemist on staff. Okay, so we make sure that this stuff is pure and everything else, all the way down from, I can track it from seed to store.
Well, and I noticed now a lot of these industrial grows, everything's indoors in controlled atmospheric conditions. It's not out in the open. Again, I know a lot of native farmers that are trying to start these hemp farms as well. But if you get one male in that crop and your crop turns hot, meaning it goes above that 0.3% in THC, the government says you got to destroy the entire crop. And I know a lot of people that's
happened.
They've grown several hundreds of acres of hemp, and they have that one male plant show up, and all of a sudden the entire crop is unusable. And it's devastating for these farmers. So they use these indoor grows just to control what they're doing.
Correct. So let me just clarify a little bit on that.
Okay.
So when you grow hemp in the field, and that's great. And then unfortunately, the farmers always take the brunt of this. They always get kicked down on this because of this. A lot of CBD is coming from female plants with those buds. Yeah. Okay. If you don't know what you're looking for, and then you have one male plant in there, it'll turn and seed out your entire crop, which stops your CBD production. Okay. So instead of going hot, that's actually if you let it go too long in the field.
Oh. Okay.
So basically, if you have one male plant, or there's tons of ditchweed out here. There could be an illegal grow going on. So in pollination, we show records where there's cross pollination 10 miles apart. Wow. So honestly, in the future, all the CBD stuff is going to be grown indoors to be able to control that cross pollination stuff.
Sure.
And then the outside stuff is going to be for those, the male fibrous stocks for textiles. They're making hemp wood.
Yeah.
You talk about the hemp house up in Fargo that can, instead of insulation, it can resist fire all the way up to, almost 500 degrees. There's a lot of applications for this. I mean, even the first Model T car ran on hemp oil.
Oh.
Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
There's diesel lawnmowers out there right now that will run on hemp oil. So back in the whole reason that this is illegal and people have this devil's lettuce mentality about it, we'll go back. Cannabis was one of the main ingredients in 90% of all pain medications prior to prohibition of the Marijuana Tax Act in 1937. Factories were told to divert and change operations to make hemp rope for World War I. That's where the term smoking rope came from.
Huh. Okay.
And the Marijuana Tax Act in 1937 was actually created because it threatened multiple industries: lumber, fossil fuels, pharmaceuticals. They didn't want that in there, and there was a lot of propaganda that's been pushed and pushed and pushed. Now, in my world, cannabis is medicine. You look at a pill or whatever, I think that's a drug, not a medicine.
Yeah.
So.
Sure. Interesting. Well, let's get back to CBD and why people should be, considering that for their health issues. I actually had a lady that was having some severe stomach issues. In fact, she couldn't keep food down. She was vomiting and very, very stressful to her gut sort of stuff. And I said, well, I don't know if this would work for this. So I told her, I gave her a bottle of CBD product that I buy regularly. And I said, just try this for at least 2 or 3 weeks. Because again, as you said, everybody's different and they can absorb this product differently. So the effects, really, you need a week or 2 weeks.
More than that, actually.
Oh, really?
Technically, it can take anywhere from 30 to 60 days to fully build up in your system.
Yeah.
And lots of people, like when CBD first came to market, I feel like I did a disservice to a lot of people, but we didn't know. I would start somebody like yourself, I might start them on 1,000 milligram tincture. Tell them to try it for 10 days. If it doesn't work, double your dosage. Now we've implemented a new deal where you get 20% off of your first bottle, so I can bump your dosage up. Yeah. And I give you a second bottle for free. So that way I know that you give it the good college try, and I know that you've built it up in your system.
Sure.
Think about when you drink for a second. It might take you a 6-pack or 12-pack to get to that level, and then you got to maintain it. Same thing with CBD.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you really want to make sure that you go on a high dosage for a little bit to start with. And then, then you can drop, like for you, I'd start you on a 2,500 milligram tincture now for 2 months. And then I would lower you back down to 1,000 because you can't overdose on this stuff.
That was my next question is people are going to say, can I overdose on this?
No, your body will just excrete.
I told somebody, I said, you could drink this entire bottle and you're not going to, you might feel, I know some people were very sensitive and they said, I think I can feel a little buzz, but they're not totally high. They just felt something was different there. And I don't know if that was in their head or, something really affecting in their body, but it was something there. Getting back to this woman's story, she was, the doctors didn't know what to do about her gut and all these issues there. And I gave her some of the CBD full spectrum. And she said within a couple of days, it stopped.
Wow.
Completely.
That's amazing.
And I thought, well, then there's something in this product that provides some relief to her gut issues where, again, she couldn't keep food down. She had ulcers. And again, these aren't medical claims. I can't claim that this is, going to heal everybody, and I know you can't do that either, but from my experience, there is some properties in CBD that goes beyond pain and anxiety. I know when COVID hit, anxiety was a big thing for a lot of people, and
that's what your person is feeling, that calming effect. They're not getting high from it; they're not getting that calming sensation.
And maybe they equate that to, because they're always so used to being so jittery and anxiety and stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, this is kind of nice, but you don't notice it right away. It was like you said,
Right.
for you, you were saying 30 to 60 days. For me, it was like 2 to 3 weeks. And all of a sudden it's like, I realized, oh, my pain is gone.
Right.
It doesn't happen like an opioid where it's instantaneous
Correct.
and your high is instantaneous. This, you don't get the high, but you get less pain. And for my neuropathy, it's awesome because to some extent I feel like I can feel the floor again with my shoes. But it's been really, really helpful. So
Anti-inflammatory. That is the key word.
yeah,
Keyword, whether it's your body, whether it's, cancer stuff, whether it's the pain, inflammation is the big driver on that.
sure.
One thing I'll just say real quick on this, because of that calming feeling, and most people don't know this, if somebody takes like too many gummies on the other side of the spectrum,
Yeah,
the marijuana, because that's what happens is somebody will take a gummy, which can take anywhere from 45 to an hour to
3 hours.
kick in,
Yeah,
right? And they take another one, and that's where they start getting all weirded out and their heart starts racing and things like that. And then they end up going to the hospital, which
right.
they don't need to do. Honestly, CBD is counteractive of that.
Okay.
So if somebody ever is in that situation and they're like having, that uncomfortable feeling, they can take CBD and it'll actually bring them back down.
Yeah. So now you mentioned Delta 8 and Delta 9 and CBG and CBN and CB whatever. What are all these other side products and what do they do?
We desperately need some sort of regulation in this, but what I hope that they don't do is do a knee-jerk reaction and start banning all these alternative cannabinoids, because all the other alternative cannabinoids we're learning so much about these things on targeted effects. Like
Sure.
THCV, as an example, that is very, it helps with focus or anti-ADHD, and also it's an appetite suppressant. So some people will actually lose weight on it.
Okay.
Delta 8 is kind of, let's say, Delta 9 is the fun cannabinoid, where you're going to get that light, smiley feeling and
Sure.
stuff like that.
And is that legal in Wisconsin?
Up to 0.3. So
Oh,
again,
okay.
I can sell pretty much anything and everything as long as it tests under that 0.3, but I can't sell the actual plant that grows out of the ground that God created.
Okay.
Which is hard for me.
Yeah.
That's the issue. But Delta 8 is it's less psychoactive than Delta 9, and it really works really well for pain and sleep compared to Delta 9. Like, I don't sleep off of Delta 9. I sleep better on Delta 8.
Okay. Interesting.
So what we've been able to do is, we actually have Delta 9 gummies that are hemp-derived Delta 9 THC, and that basically, give you a psychoactive effect, but it's not as strong, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. It gives you a little happiness, not extreme out of the box happiness.
And
floating on the ceiling.
Correct. Well, the chemists can do a lot of things. So we've actually been able to shave shoulders off when we do these tests to the DEA lab. So I've got 20 milligram gummies, but that's not equivalent to a 20 milligram gummy that you would buy in Michigan. But you're still going to get some of those same properties.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it's legal because it's under the 0.3.
I'm just amazed at how the labs can, when we're, creating DNA for other health issues, and we're able to split atoms and all this, it's what we can do in the lab for a plant. And I'm just amazed at what some of this product does. Now, you mentioned to me, some of these other products that are coming on the market, and we'll start to see more as China ships more over, as you said, some gas stations are having a cheaper product, and they just put giant letters CBD, and everybody thinks it's the same. How do I know what I'm buying is the good stuff as far as quality control and accuracy in the lab? And you'd mentioned a QR code on the bottles or the product containers. Look for that QR code, because that should go back to a lab report.
That's correct. If that does not, and a lot of people just throw a QR code on their label and it won't go anywhere.
Oh, really?
So yes, that's the whole thing, is like there's a lot of shady stuff on here, hence the regulation. But long story short, if you're looking at a CBD product, I don't care where you get it from. Obviously, if come to me, I guarantee the quality on it.
Right.
But if you go to a gas station or somewhere else, if it has you better make sure it has a QR code on it, and you better scan and go to a certified lab report. Now, there's a lot of Photoshop lab reports out there that might look like it, but what you're looking for is down in the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to see a DEA registration.
Oh,
So
okay.
again, when Delta 8 first hit the market, most of these labs, even the state crime lab, they had no idea how to test for this stuff correctly. So we've started using only certified certified DEA registered labs. There's a few of them out there now, that test for things. So, if you can tell, you know what I mean, there's just a little bit of information potency. That might not be a truthful lab report. You just don't know.
Sure.
You look for that DEA number at the bottom left-hand corner and look, it'll look complete. There'll be a lot of information on that, not just this, it's under 0.3.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. What else can you tell us about the CBGs and the other different CB whatever X?
So
Are
CBD,
those the same as the Delta 8, Delta 9s? They just have different properties or what?
the best way, what I like to tell people is like, you want to use your CBD and think of that as your vitamin. You want to be taking it every day, okay, for your inflammatory. And then what I like to say is use your deltas as needed, whether it's for, like basically ever since I started Delta 8, I have not had to take an Ambien since.
Okay.
For my sleep. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. The CBG, that's really good for sleep. CBC is probably one of the best, most anti-cancerous type cannabinoids out there.
And what does that do? You say anti-cancerous. Is that preventing cancer or
no,
is
more
it
like
healing? I know you can't say it.
Sorry. I do my best here, sir. I do my best because, that's why we need regulation. And, it'd be nice to be able to actually tell people what this stuff actually does. You come into one of my stores, my employees can actually talk to you about these ailments and things. But, CBD has been known to help with restfulness. When you're sad, when you can't sleep, PTSD, that is, or trauma, that is a major one that CBD helps with. When my Vietnam vets have night terrors or PTSD episodes for my Iraq war vets and things like that, they'll smoke some or hit a vapor or take a little thing of tincture, things like that.
Yeah.
Let me touch on that real quick too. Anybody that's really looking to start a CBD regimen, don't start with an edible form. Okay. The best way to get CBD in your body is going to be through inhalation, but a lot of people don't want to smoke.
Right.
The next best way is going to be through a tincture. Okay. And I know this is one of your questions.
Which is an oil dropper, sort of.
And the best way to do that is you want to, because it's an oil-based distillate. So what you want to do is take it sublingually, put it under your tongue, hold it in your mouth for 60 seconds. That is crucial for dosing, because that way it absorbs directly into your bloodstream rather than you swallowing it and then your organs have to process it.
Your digestive system breaks it down.
Exactly. Now, so my recommendation is at least start off for the first 2 months with a tincture. Okay. Then after that, after the CBD is built up in your system, then move to an edible form or a drink or something like that to maintain the CBD in your system. But it's number one, it's going to be cost prohibitive if you start off with edibles, and it's going to take longer. It could maybe take 3 months if you're doing gummies.
Sure.
Now with gummies, same thing. Everybody just chews them and swallows them. Don't do that. Chew them up and suck on them.
Oh, okay.
That way, it absorbs right into your bloodstream.
Yeah. And I've known it with my tincture. I, again, make sure I put that under my tongue and I leave it in my mouth for, like you said, 60 seconds or more.
Yep.
The longer you can leave it in there. And again, some of them have different flavors, so it doesn't have that more earthy flavor to it, which a lot of the
full spectrums, you're going to get that earthy, weedy taste a little bit, but it's not horrible. It's not bad. The isolates, those are going to be like the pure products. You know what I mean? Because think of here's a prime example. Think of your full spectrum as baking, think of your full spectrum as cooking. You can cook that steak or that chicken, but it's never going to be the exact same. If you plant the same seed in the same field, harvest it, extract it all the same way, that weather is going to change that property of that cannabis plant. Isolate, on the other hand, since it's a pure product, think of that as baking. You know what I mean? It's very recipe driven. And then in the isolates, the nice thing is we can add in certain plant terpenes for target effects.
Yeah.
Like we have one that has linalool or linalool in it, which is the plant terpene of lavender. Lavender helps you sleep.
Yeah.
So and people that use THC on a regular basis, that full spectrum is not going to help them sleep because of that THC. So somebody like me, I need that isolate with that added terpene for my sleep.
Okay. Wow. so much information. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have you back at
That's
another
fine.
time.
Absolutely.
That's great. So, Tim Frey, again, you are with the Global Organic Organization, but you also then own the Ignite dispensary system or stores with 7 locations, and especially one here in Hayward. And appreciate your time coming in and helping decipher this stuff and letting people know of my age. This is a safe product, and it's going to help them in the long term. So, good
I'm
enough.
more than happy to come back on anytime and just get a list of questions. I'll be glad to go through.
All right. Thank you, Tim, for your time. Appreciate it. Here's Democracy Now!